Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here at the Spartan Rocketry Club, and it is time to slap some decals on our Estes DARC-1 rocket. So in the intervening time, I painted the black parts, and frankly, it didn't go very well. The bottom side was kind of grainy to begin with, which I initially blamed on the gray spray paint, but honestly, I think it was probably the plastic primer. Um, So it's grainy and its coverage is okay, but not super great. The cockpit up here, unfortunately, blistered. And as I mentioned, it's usually a result of too much paint. But it's also possible in this case that that was how my black paint reacted to the questionable finish that I'd put on it so far. So it's not great, frankly, but it'll do. This is supposed to look like a kind of tough, rough and tumble spacecraft anyway. So maybe that's a good thing. All right. Anyway, so it's decal time. I've cut these out. This is the remainder of the decal sheet. These ones go on the fins, and it looks like it goes like this, and whoops, like this, and then the other one, the mirror image goes on the other one. So on the other fin. So I'm going to start there. Um, Yeah, so that this video is mostly going to be me slapping some decals on, and then the last thing that I need to do basically is clear coat the whole thing. There's probably going to be one step after that to very quickly attach the motor retention system and install the parachute. But for the most part, most of the work is done, and this is just going to be finishing. All right, more decal work. I'm going to slide it a little bit as before. Try to get my finger on the part that's exposed and then remove the backing. It looks like just looking at the picture that came with the instructions, I want it most of the way back, but not the whole way. So something like this maybe. I need that circle to be fully on the fin, so I'm going to slide it back a little bit farther, and we'll say this will do. And then the usual business of blotting and pushing out any bubbles in the decal. All right. Oh, yeah, that the finish even on this is I can see there's like graininess to the paint, which is not great, but could be worse. These parts here are going to get these orangish little intake looking things, so I'm going to drop one of them in while I apply this decal. Ideally, we'll have the decals basically in the same place relative to each other back here on the fin. But since I'm not measuring it, I'm not breaking out a ruler to do this, that's going to be somewhat of an estimate, and I can live with that. And that looks about lined up. And mop up the excess. There's some big water droplets that I left on there. All the rockets, this one being mostly plastic, the water is going to affect it the least. But all right, so the little intakes, they're curved, so there's obviously a right way and a wrong way. The front end is a little narrower than the back, so I'm pretty sure it's going to go on like this as opposed to the other direction. And again, I'm just trying to line this up with the impression, the indentation that's in the plastic itself. So this, at least, you have a pretty clear demarcation about where it's supposed to go, which is nice. It doesn't happen very often applying decals, so whenever it does, count our blessings. All right, my decal has fallen to the bottom of my custard cup here. which is a mild annoyance. If this happens, just be careful bringing it back up, because the last thing you want is for the decal to separate on the way up, in which case you'd have to fish the decal out in addition to the paper, and that would make applying it rather difficult as well. Okay. I'll do these ones that say dark 1 next. I think they should be pretty straightforward. All right. I do need to figure out, by the way, where these ones that say danger, where they're going to go. Just looking at the instructions, it looks like the ones that say dark 1 are going to go in this panel here. And the warnings that say danger are going to go in front of these, which I guess are supposed to be like vents or intakes or something like that. So that's going to be the plan. The dark 1 name ones looks like they're aligned with this line right here in the plastic rather than this diagonal. So they're going to look kind of askew, which is okay. It's not like that's a problem. It's just something to be aware of. Again, this is all, so I'm matching what's in the instructions and on the box art. That is really not necessary. If you don't want to match the box art, then by all means don't match the box art. This is, it's your rocket. You can do with it as you please. This is rather annoying. I did not get the decal to lie flat when it came off the backing, which is like why I apply it that way, is to get the decal to lie flat. It didn't quite. It's curled up on itself. I'm going to use my knife here. The pointy part is, or the cutting edge is now pointed away from my finger. I'm not cutting anything. I'm just using it as a thin piece of metal here to kind of peel things apart. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right. I could get away with that, by the way, touching it there at the very end because my fingers are wet. I would not want to try that if my fingers were dry. I would probably end up either getting the decal stuck to my own hand, which would defeat the purpose, or I could end up tearing it, which I've certainly done in the past. Something to be avoided. All right. The finish on this side is ironically quite a bit better, so hopefully this goes better as well. And again, I have it lined up with this edge over here. Oops. There we go. Oops. Well, it's not lined up anymore. Okay. All right. The last two. My water's quite cold at this point. If I had any more than 2 to do, I would probably go refresh at this point. But these ones that say danger, I'm going to make sure they don't curl, first of all. And I'm going to put them right next to these plastic bumps that look like intakes. So like that. And they are they're not supposed to be parallel to these, which is good because the way I applied it, it's not. My goal here, I think, is just to get it to line up basically with the little plastic intakes, just to be like right in front of them and in the same line. All right, last one. Same deal. You want to be careful not to have anything twist over on itself here. My air conditioner is running too, so it's kind of flapping things around in the breeze, which is making this a bit more difficult. I have, on occasion, turned the air conditioning, or the fan anyway, off temporarily while applying some of these decals, but I didn't today, and I don't know, it's not really necessary. Generally, I find that I can do fine without. All right, so that takes care of all the decal work. Now, I'm obviously going to let this dry, and I'm going to not touch any of the decals. What needs to happen next is I'm going to put this together where it goes like this. It should fit the whole way in, but I'm fine with that as is. I'm going to take these cords, and they go, when the rocket flies, they and the parachute are going to go in this little container section. So I'm going to load them up right now as best I can. And then I'm going to, remember previously I had, that's on the wrong side. Oh well, it'll be fine. I had a piece of tissue paper, or not tissue paper, paper towel in here to kind of just protect it from being painted. I'm going to do the same thing again this time. Hopefully, this is actually kind of tricky. Hopefully that'll keep most of the paint, the clear coat that I'm going to put on next, off. But if it doesn't, well, it should be fine. This actually, paper towel is going to be too big, so I'm going to have to go get a separate one, and that's fine. I'm also going to, I thought about putting something in here, but I think it'll be fine without. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. There probably won't get much paint won't get in there. All right, so clear coat, and then there's going to have to be a very brief, hopefully, final video putting on the parachute and the engine, the motor retainer. So that's it. See you then.